I've always been a behind-the-scenes kind of gal, you know? The one who makes things happen but never gets the spotlight. That's why I became a social media manager. It's all about making other people look good, while I hide behind my laptop screen. But let me tell you, sometimes life has a way of dragging you center stage when you least expect it. It was just another sweltering summer day in San Diego, the kind where your clothes stick to you before you even leave the house. I was already running late for work, my hair a frizzy mess, when I decided to stop for an iced latte. Big mistake. Huge. I burst into the trendy little coffee shop on Fifth Avenue, my mind a whirlwind of deadlines and unread emails. That's when I saw her. Blonde hair cascading over bronzed shoulders, blue eyes that put the Pacific to shame. She was laughing with the barista, and I swear time slowed down. I didn't even realize I was staring until she glanced my way and smiled. Gosh, that smile. It was like someone flipped a switch inside me. I stumbled forward, fumbling for my wallet. Large iced latte, please," I mumbled, trying not to look at the goddess standing next to me. The barista nodded, and I stepped aside, sneaking glances at the blonde beauty. "Here you go, miss," the barista called out, sliding my drink across the counter. I reached for it, my mind still foggy with thoughts of golden hair and summer sky eyes. And then, disaster struck. My hand knocked the cup, sending it flying. Time slowed to a crawl as I watched that icy brown liquid arc through the air in slow motion, right towards her. Her eyes widened in shock, and I swear I could see each individual droplet splatter across her pristine white sundress. "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry," I gasped, grabbing napkins and dabbing at her dress frantically. "I'm such a klutz. I'll pay for the dry cleaning, I swear." She laughed, a sound like wind chimes in a summer breeze. "It's okay, really, it's just a dress." I looked up, meeting those impossibly blue eyes. "I'm Diana," I blurted out, still clutching a soggy napkin. "Lila," she replied, her smile never wavering. "And really, it's fine, though I might take you up on that dry cleaning offer." We spent the next few minutes trying to salvage her dress, laughing at the absurdity of it all. As I helped her clean up, I couldn't help but notice the softness of her skin, the light floral scent of her perfume. It was intoxicating. "Listen," Lila said as we finally gave up on the stains. "I was about to grab a coffee anyway. Why don't you let me buy you a replacement? It's the least I can do for providing such entertaining morning drama." I should have said no. I was already late for work, and my boss Jack would be wondering where I was. But there was something about Lila that made me want to throw caution to the wind. "Sure," I heard myself say, "I'd like that." As we sat down with our fresh drinks, I found myself opening up to this stranger in a way I never had before. We talked about our jobs. Turns out she's a rising social media influencer, our dreams, our fears. It felt like I'd known her for years. When I finally looked at my watch, I realized 2 hours had passed. "Shit," I muttered. "My boss is going to kill me." Lila reached out, her hand brushing mine. "Give me your phone," she said. I handed it over without thinking, watching as she typed something in. "There," she said, handing it back. "Now you have my number. You know, in case you want to spill coffee on me again sometime." I laughed, feeling a warmth that had nothing to do with the San Diego heat. As I rushed out of the coffee shop, already composing excuses in my head for Jack, I couldn't shake the feeling that my life had just changed in some fundamental way. Little did I know, that chance encounter would lead me down a path I never expected, full of likes, shares, and a love that would shake my world to its core. But that's getting ahead of ourselves. For now, let's just say that sometimes a little spilled coffee can lead to the sweetest connections. I'd love to say I had the guts to text Lila right away, but the truth is, I'm a chicken shit when it comes to matters of the heart. So instead, I did what any self-respecting millennial would do. I stalked her online. It started innocently enough. A quick Google search here, a casual Instagram scroll there. But before I knew it, I was in deep. Lila's social media presence was intoxicating. Her posts were a mix of sun-drenched beach shots, behind-the-scenes peeks at photo shoots, and candid moments that made me feel like I was right there with her. One night, after a particularly grueling day at the office, Jack had been on my case about a botched Twitter campaign. I found myself curled up on my couch, scrolling through Lila's feed. That's when I stumbled upon her live stream. "Hey, beautiful people," Lila's voice rang out from my phone, and I nearly dropped it in surprise. There she was, sitting on her balcony, the San Diego skyline twinkling behind her. Welcome to another Sunset Chat with Lila. I watched, mesmerized, as she talked about her day, answered questions from viewers, and shared tips on everything from skincare to social media strategy. It was like our coffee shop conversation all over again, except this time, she was talking to thousands of people instead of just me. Before I knew it, watching Lila's streams became my nightly ritual. I'd pour myself a glass of wine, curl up in bed, and lose myself in her world. It was pathetic, really. Here I was, a grown-ass woman, pining over someone I'd met once like some lovesick teenager. But I couldn't help it. There was something about Lila that drew me in. Maybe it was the way her eyes crinkled when she laughed, or how she always seemed to know just what to say to make her viewers feel special. Whatever it was, I was hooked. One night, after a particularly wine-fueled viewing session, I did something stupid. I created an anonymous account and started interacting with her content. Nothing creepy, mind you, just likes, comments, the occasional question during her live streams. But it felt intimate, like I had a secret connection to her that no one else knew about. Weeks passed and my obsession grew. I found myself checking her profiles multiple times a day, always hoping for a new post, a new glimpse into her life. It was during one of these stalking sessions that I noticed something interesting. Lila was looking for collaborators for her upcoming project. My heart raced. This was my chance. I could reach out, offer my marketing expertise, maybe even see her again in person. But every time I started to type out a message, my fingers froze. What if she didn't remember me? What if she thought I was just another fangirl trying to ride her coattails to fame? It was Maria, my best friend and voice of reason, who finally knocked some sense into me. We were having our weekly wine session when I confessed my Lila obsession. "Diana, honey," Maria said, refilling my glass, "you're acting like a damn teenager. Either text the girl or move on. This pining shit isn't cute at our age." I sighed, knowing she was right. "But what if?" "No what ifs," Maria cut me off. "You're a catch, Di. Smart, funny, and let's face it, your ass looks great in those jeans. If Lila can't see that, it's her loss." I laughed, feeling some of the tension leave my body. "You're right. I'm being ridiculous." "Damn straight," Maria nodded. "Now, tell me more about this collaboration thing. Maybe there's a way you can reach out professionally first, test the waters?" We spent the rest of the night brainstorming, fueled by wine and Maria's unwavering confidence in me. By the time she left, I had a plan. A terrifying, potentially embarrassing plan, but a plan nonetheless. The next day at work, I cornered my colleague Tom in the break room. "Hey," I said, trying to sound casual, "you know how you've been bugging me to start a work-related social media account? I think I'm ready to give it a shot." Tom's face lit up. "Really? That's awesome, Di. I've been telling you for ages that you've got great insights to share. What made you change your mind?" I shrugged, hoping my face wasn't as red as it felt. "Just thought it was time to step out of my comfort zone, you know?" As Tom rambled on about content strategies and hashtags, my mind wandered to Lila. This was crazy, right? Starting a whole damn social media presence just to get closer to her? But as I thought about her smile, her laugh, the way she made me feel seen during our brief encounter, I knew I had to try. That night, I set up my professional account. Diana Moore, Social Media Maestro, the bio read. It felt pretentious as hell, but Tom assured me it was perfect. I posted my first video with shaking hands, a quick intro, and some basic marketing tips. As I hit post, I couldn't help but wonder, was this the beginning of something amazing, or was I setting myself up for the most spectacular crash and burn of my life? Only time would tell. But one thing was for sure, my quiet life behind the scenes was about to get a whole lot more interesting. You know that saying about how when you want something, the universe conspires to make it happen? Well, let me tell you, the universe has a twisted sense of humor. My first few posts were, well, let's just say they weren't exactly setting the internet on fire. I'd ramble on about engagement rates and algorithm changes, trying to sound professional while secretly hoping Lila would somehow stumble across my sad little corner of the internet. It was during one of these cringe-worthy live streams that everything changed. I was in the middle of explaining the importance of hashtag strategy when my cat, Mr. Whiskers, decided to make a guest appearance. He jumped onto my desk, knocking over my coffee mug and sending papers flying everywhere. "Shit!" I yelped, forgetting I was live. I scrambled to clean up the mess, all while Mr. Whiskers sat there looking smug. "You little asshole," I muttered, then froze as I remembered my audience. To my surprise, the comments section exploded. People were loving this glimpse of real, unfiltered me. Before I knew it, my follower count started ticking up. Apparently, people preferred my fumbling attempts at damage control to my rehearsed marketing spiel. From then on, I decided to embrace the chaos. I'd share marketing tips, sure, but I'd also talk about my disastrous dating life, my struggles with imposter syndrome, and yes, Mr. Whisker's ongoing attempts to sabotage my career. It was terrifying putting myself out there like that, but also exhilarating. As my following grew, I started getting messages from other content creators wanting to collab. But there was only one person I really wanted to notice me. Then, one fateful night, it happened. I was in the middle of a stream, ranting about a particularly awful Tinder date when I saw it. A notification that made my heart stop. Lila Stewart is now following you. I nearly choked on my wine. Holy shit, I muttered, then quickly covered my mouth. Wow. Thanks for joining us, Lila. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely hold my phone. Lila. The woman I'd been low-key obsessed with for months was watching my stream. I felt like I was going to pass out. The rest of the stream was a blur. I rambled on, trying to act normal while my mind raced. When I finally signed off, I collapsed onto my bed, heart pounding. She'd followed me. She knew who I was. Or at least, she knew this version of me. The next morning, I woke up to a DM from Lila. Loved your stream last night, it read. Your dating stories had me in stitches. We should collab sometime. I must have read that message 100 times, pinching myself to make sure I wasn't dreaming. This was it. My chance to reconnect with Lila, to see if that spark I felt in the coffee shop was real or just my imagination running wild. We set up a Zoom call to discuss the collab, and I spent hours agonizing over what to wear, how to do my makeup. It was ridiculous. She'd seen me with coffee-stained clothes and frizzy hair for gosh's sake, but I wanted to impress her. When her face popped up on my screen, all my carefully prepared talking points flew out the window. She was even more beautiful than I remembered, her blonde hair pulled back in a messy bun, those blue eyes sparkling with mischief. Diana, she exclaimed. I can't believe it's you. I've been racking my brain trying to figure out why you look so familiar. You're the coffee shop klutz. I felt my face flush. Guilty as charged, I admitted. I didn't think you'd remember me. Lila's laugh was like music. Are you kidding? It's not every day a gorgeous brunette ruins my favorite sundress. I was starting to think I'd imagined our whole meet cute. Meet cute? My heart did a little flip. She thought it was a meet cute? We chatted for over an hour, the collaboration all but forgotten as we caught up. It felt just like that day in the coffee shop, easy and natural. By the time we hung up, we had a plan for a joint live stream and a dinner date. The next few days were a whirlwind of preparation and anticipation. I obsessed over every detail of our upcoming stream, determined to make it perfect. But more than that, I couldn't stop thinking about our date. The night of the stream arrived, and I was a bundle of nerves. What if I made a fool of myself? What if our chemistry didn't translate on camera? But as soon as Lila's face appeared on the split screen, all my worries melted away. We bantered back and forth, sharing marketing tips and embarrassing stories in equal measure. Our viewers loved it, the comment section buzzing with excitement. But I barely noticed. All I could focus on was Lila, her laugh, her smile, the way her eyes crinkled when she was trying not to giggle at one of my bad jokes. As the stream wound down, Lila turned to the camera with a mischievous grin. Well, folks, it's been a blast, but I've got a hot date to get ready for. She winked at me, and I felt my face flush. Same here, I managed to say, hoping my voice didn't betray just how flustered I was. Thanks for joining us, everyone. As soon as we signed off, my phone buzzed with a text from Lila. Can't wait for tonight. Wear something sexy. I flopped back on my bed, grinning like an idiot. Who would have thought that spilling coffee and making a fool of myself on the internet would lead to this? As I stood in front of my closet trying to decide what constituted sexy in Lila's book, I couldn't help but feel like this was the start of something amazing. Little did I know, our story was about to get a whole lot more complicated. But in that moment, all I could think about was Lila, and the promise of what the night might bring. Have you ever had one of those moments where everything feels too good to be true? That's exactly how I felt as I walked into the swanky rooftop restaurant where Lila and I had agreed to meet. The sun was just starting to set over San Diego, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold that would have made even the most jaded influencer swoon. And there she was, looking like a goddamn dream in a little black dress that hugged every curve. When she saw me, her face lit up with a smile that made my knees go weak. "Diana," she called out, waving me over. "You look amazing." I glanced down at my outfit, an emerald green jumpsuit that Maria had assured me made my ass look fantastic, and sent a silent thank you to my best friend. "You're one to talk," I said, leaning in to kiss Lila's cheek. The scent of her perfume made my head spin. We settled into our table, and for a moment I was terrified that the easy banter we'd shared online wouldn't translate to real life. But then Lila launched into a story about her latest photo shoot disaster, and just like that, we were off. The hours flew by in a blur of laughter, good wine, and conversations that meandered from silly to serious and back again. By the time our dessert arrived, a decadent chocolate thing that Lila insisted we had to try, I was half convinced I was dreaming. "So," Lila said, leaning in conspiratorially, "I have to ask, how did you go from spilling coffee on me to becoming a social media sensation?" I nearly choked on my wine. Would you believe me if I said it was all part of my master plan?" Lila's laughter rang out across the rooftop. "Oh honey, I don't believe that for a second. But I'd love to hear the real story." So I told her about how I'd been too chicken to text her, how I'd started watching her streams, how I'd finally worked up the courage to put myself out there. I left out the part about creating an anonymous account to interact with her content. Some things are better left unsaid on a first date. To my surprise, Lila didn't seem freaked out. Instead, she reached across the table and took my hand. "That's adorable," she said, her thumb tracing circles on my palm. "And for what it's worth, I'm glad you did. I haven't clicked with someone like this well, ever." The rest of the night passed in a haze of soft touches and lingering glances. When we finally left the restaurant, neither of us seemed ready for the night to end. "Want to take a walk on the beach?" Lila suggested, and I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. We strolled along the water's edge, our hands brushing against each other until finally, Lila laced her fingers through mine. The moonlight reflected off the waves, casting everything in a silvery glow. It was so perfect it was almost cliché. We stopped, turning to face each other. Lila reached up, tucking a strand of hair behind my ear. "I really want to kiss you right now," she murmured. "What's stopping you?" I whispered back. The moment her lips touched mine, it was like fireworks exploded behind my eyelids. Her mouth was soft, tasting faintly of chocolate and wine. I wrapped my arms around her waist, pulling her closer as the kiss deepened. When we finally broke apart, both of us were breathless. "Wow," Lila said, her forehead resting against mine. "Yeah," I agreed eloquently. "Wow." The spell was broken by the buzz of my phone. I grimaced apologetically as I checked it, then froze. It was a notification from one of those trashy gossip sites. Rising influencer Lila Stewart caught in steamy beach makeout with mystery woman. "Shit," I muttered, showing Lila the screen. Her eyes widened, then narrowed. "Those vultures," she spat. "I'm so sorry, Diana. I should have known better than to. I mean, I'm used to this, but you didn't sign up for it." I could see the panic in her eyes, the fear that this would scare me off. And maybe it should have. But looking at her in the moonlight, her hair tousled by the ocean breeze, I knew I wasn't going anywhere. "Hey," I said softly, cupping her face in my hands. "It's okay. We'll figure it out." The relief in her eyes was palpable. She leaned in, kissing me again, softer this time. "You're amazing, you know that?" We spent the rest of the night strategizing how to handle the situation, interspersed with more kisses and laughter. By the time I got home, the sun was starting to rise, and I had about 1,000 notifications on my phone. As I collapsed into bed, exhausted but giddy, I couldn't help but marvel at how quickly my life had changed. A few months ago, I was a nobody hiding behind my laptop screen. Now I was an up-and-coming content creator with a gorgeous girlfriend. Was she my girlfriend? We hadn't exactly had that conversation yet, and a minor scandal under my belt. But the real test was still to come. The next morning, I dragged myself into the office, running on caffeine and the lingering high of Lila's kisses. I was so distracted that I almost ran smack into Jack, my boss. "Diana," he said, his voice unusually stern. "My office, now." As I followed him, my stomach sinking, I couldn't help but wonder if this was the beginning of the end. Had my foray into the spotlight just cost me my job? And if it had, was Lila worth it? The answer, I realized as I sat down across from Jack's imposing desk, was a resounding yes. Whatever came next, I was all in. Game on, world. Diana Moore is ready for her close-up. You know that feeling when you're sitting in the principal's office, waiting for the hammer to fall? That's exactly how I felt as Jack leaned back in his chair, eyeing me over the rim of his glasses. The silence stretched on, thick and uncomfortable, until I was ready to scream. Finally, he spoke. So, Diana, it seems you've been busy. I swallowed hard, my mouth suddenly dry. Sir, I can explain. He held up a hand, cutting me off. No need. I've seen the posts, the streams. Hell, my own daughter follows you now. He paused, and I braced myself for the worst. Then, to my utter shock, he grinned. It's brilliant. I blinked. Sure, I'd misheard. I'm sorry. The authenticity, the relatability, it's exactly what we've been trying to achieve with our clients. And you've done it seemingly overnight. He leaned forward, eyes gleaming. I want you to head up a new division, influencer relations. My head was spinning. This wasn't at all what I'd expected. But what about the scandal, the photos? Jack waved dismissively. Please. In this industry, there's no such thing as bad publicity. Just make sure you're controlling the narrative. I left his office in a daze, clutching a contract for a substantial raise and promotion. As I sat at my desk, trying to process what had just happened, my phone buzzed. It was Lila. You okay? Her text read. I'm so sorry about all this. Can we talk? We agreed to meet at a quiet little park near my office. When I arrived, Lila was already there, pacing nervously. She looked up as I approached, her face a mix of guilt and worry. Diana, she started, but I cut her off, pulling her into a kiss that left us both breathless. When we finally parted, she blinked at me, dazed. I thought you'd be mad. I shook my head, laughing. Mad? Lila, I just got promoted because of this. Apparently, I'm an influencer now. Relief washed over her face, followed quickly by a mischievous grin. Well then, Ms. Influencer, how about we give them something to really talk about? We spent the rest of the afternoon taking silly selfies and posting them with increasingly ridiculous captions. By the time the sun started to set, #Dalila was trending and my follower count had doubled. As we sat on a park bench, watching the sky turn pink and gold, Lila turned to me, her expression suddenly serious. Diana, there's something I need to tell you. My stomach clenched. This was it, the other shoe dropping. What is it? She took a deep breath. I think I'm falling in love with you. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. Then, slowly, a grin spread across my face. That's funny, I said, because I know I'm falling in love with you. The kiss that followed was sweet and tender, full of promise. As we walked hand in hand through the twilight, I felt like I was floating. Everything was perfect. But of course, that's when life decided to throw us another curveball. The next morning, I woke up to a flood of notifications. At first, I thought it was just more fallout from our park shenanigans. But as I scrolled through, my blood ran cold. Someone had dug up my old anonymous account, the one I'd used to interact with Lila's content before we met. They'd pieced together the timeline, spinning a narrative of obsession and manipulation. Exposed, social media manager's creepy stalker past, the headline screamed. My phone was blowing up with messages from friends, colleagues, even my mother, but the one person I needed to hear from was silent. With shaking hands, I called Lila. It went straight to voicemail. I tried texting, but the messages just sat there, unread. Panic clawed at my throat as I realized what this must look like to her. I spent the day in a haze, alternating between desperately trying to reach Lila and fighting off panic attacks. By the time evening rolled around, I was a wreck. That's when my doorbell rang. I opened it to find Lila standing there, her eyes red-rimmed and puffy. Is it true? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I wanted to lie, to deny everything. But looking into those blue eyes, I knew I couldn't. Yes, I admitted, but it's not what you think. Please, just let me explain. For a long moment she just stood there, and I was sure she was going to turn and walk away. But then she nodded, stepping inside. We talked for hours. I told her everything. About how I'd been too scared to reach out after our first meeting. About how watching her streams had become my escape from a job I was starting to hate. I showed her the anonymous account, let her read through every interaction. I know it looks bad, I finished, my voice hoarse from talking. But I swear, Lila, everything between us since we reconnected has been real. I love you. That's the truest thing I know. Lila was quiet for a long time, her face unreadable. Then, slowly, she reached out and took my hand. I believe you, she said softly. Relief crashed over me like a wave, and before I knew it, I was crying. Lila pulled me into her arms, stroking my hair as I sobbed into her shoulder. It's okay, she murmured. We'll figure this out together. As we sat there, wrapped in each other's arms, I knew we had a long road ahead of us. There would be damage control to do, explanations to make. But in that moment, with Lila's heartbeat steady against my ear, I knew we could handle anything. The storm had passed, leaving us stronger in its wake. And as Lila tilted my chin up for a soft, reassuring kiss, I realized that sometimes the most beautiful rainbows come after the fiercest storms. Little did I know, our rainbow was about to face its biggest test yet. But that's a story for another time. They say that after the storm comes the calm, but whoever came up with that clearly never lived in the age of social media. The days following the Stalker Gate scandal were a whirlwind of damage control, late-night strategy sessions, and more coffee than any human should reasonably consume. Lila and I decided to face the controversy head-on. We filmed a video explaining the whole situation, how we'd met, my awkward attempts at connecting with her, and how it had all led to where we were now. It was raw, honest, and terrifying to put out there. But as Lila squeezed my hand and hit upload, I knew we were in this together. The response was mixed, to say the least. Some people found our story romantic, dubbing us the digital age Romeo and Juliet, though hopefully with less death and family feuds. Others weren't so forgiving, calling me everything from a creep to a master manipulator. But through it all, Lila stood by me. Her unwavering support was like a lighthouse in the storm of public opinion. Every nasty comment, every cancellation attempt, she met with grace and a fierce protectiveness that made my heart swell. It wasn't all smooth sailing between us, of course. There were moments of doubt, whispered arguments in the dead of night about whether we were doing the right thing. But each morning, we'd wake up and choose each other all over again. As the weeks passed, the furor began to die down. Our follower counts, which had taken a hit initially, started to climb again. Brands that had distanced themselves came crawling back, attracted by our authentic love story, their words, not mine. It seemed we had weathered the worst of it. Then came the email that would change everything. I was at work, drowning in a sea of spreadsheets and social media analytics, when my computer pinged. It was from the producers of Love in the Limelight, one of those cheesy reality dating shows. They wanted Lila and me to be guest judges for their upcoming influencer edition. My first instinct was to laugh it off. Us, judging a dating show? It seemed ridiculous. But as I read further, my interest piqued. They weren't just offering us a guest spot. They wanted to feature our story as part of the show. It would mean putting our relationship on display for millions of viewers, but it also meant a platform to tell our story on our own terms. I forwarded the email to Lila with a simple message. What do you think? Her response came almost immediately. Let's do it. And just like that, we were thrust into the glitzy, drama-filled world of reality TV. The next few weeks were a blur of contract negotiations, wardrobe fittings, and crash courses in how to be camera-ready, apparently. My habit of nervously running my hands through my hair was a big no-no. Finally, the day of filming arrived. As we stepped onto the set, the lights blinding and cameras everywhere, I felt my stomach do a somersault. Lila must have sensed my nerves, because she reached over and gave my hand a reassuring squeeze. You've got this, she whispered. Just be yourself. That's who I fell in love with after all. Her words calmed me, and as the host introduced us to the contestants, a group of impossibly attractive 20-somethings all vying for their shot at Insta-fame and love, I felt myself relax. The day was going surprisingly well. Lila and I shared our story with the contestants, offering advice on navigating love in the public eye. It felt good, like we were turning our struggles into something positive. But of course, reality TV thrives on drama. And drama came in the form of Sarah Klein, a rival influencer I'd had run-ins with in the past. She was one of the other guest judges, and from the moment she saw us, I could tell she was out for blood. Well, well, she drawled during a break in filming. If it isn't San Diego's favorite stalker and her Stockholm Syndrome sweetheart. I felt Lila tense beside me, but before either of us could respond, Sarah continued. You know, I've got some interesting DMs from back in the day. Might make for some juicy TV if they were to leak. My blood ran cold. I knew exactly what she was referring to. Some embarrassingly thirsty messages I'd sent her way back when, long before Lila. They were nothing incriminating, but in the wrong context. Lila stepped forward, her eyes flashing. Back off, Sarah. Whatever game you're playing, it's not going to work. Sarah just smirked. We'll see about that, honey. The rest of the day was tense, with Sarah making snide comments and pointed jabs whenever the cameras were rolling. By the time we wrapped, I was a bundle of nerves, convinced that at any moment, my past indiscretions would be splashed across the internet for all to see. As we drove home in silence, I couldn't take it anymore. Lila, I'm so sorry. Those messages to Sarah, they were from before us. I swear I never. Lila cut me off with a kiss. When she pulled back, her eyes were soft. Diana, stop. I know who you are. I trust you. Whatever Sarah thinks she has, we'll face it together, okay? I nodded, feeling a weight lift off my chest. We spent the rest of the night curled up on the couch, plotting our next move and reassuring each other with soft touches and gentle kisses. As I drifted off to sleep that night, Lila's warm body pressed against mine, I realized something. For the first time in my life, I wasn't facing my problems alone. Whatever Sarah threw our way, whatever challenges lay ahead, I had Lila by my side. And really, what more could I ask for? Little did I know, Sarah's threats were just the beginning. The real test of our relationship was yet to come, and it would push us to our limits in ways we never could have imagined. But that's a story for another day. You know how they say, be careful what you wish for? Well, let me tell you, they're not kidding. Our appearance on Love in the Limelight catapulted Lila and me into a whole new stratosphere of fame. Suddenly, we weren't just social media personalities. We were bona fide celebrities. At first, it was exhilarating. The flood of new followers, the brand deals rolling in, the invitations to exclusive events. It was like living in a dream. Lila and I were the it couple of the moment, our love story captivating audiences across the country. But as the weeks wore on, the cracks started to show. Our every move was scrutinized, our every word dissected. Paparazzi camped outside our apartments, waiting to catch a glimpse of the digital age Romeo and Juliet. It was suffocating. One morning, as I scrolled through yet another article speculating about our relationship status, I felt a familiar panic rising in my chest. Lila, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. I don't know if I can do this anymore. She looked up from her laptop, her brow furrowed with concern. Do what, babe? I gestured vaguely at my phone, at the world outside our window. This, all of it, the constant attention, the pressure. I feel like I'm losing myself. Lila's face softened. She crossed the room and pulled me into her arms, her familiar scent calming me slightly. Oh, Di. Why didn't you say something sooner? We spent the next few hours talking, really talking, for the first time in what felt like ages. As it turned out, Lila had been feeling the strain too. The constant performance, the pressure to be on all the time, it was taking its toll on both of us. Maybe we should take a break, Lila suggested tentatively. From social media, I mean, just step back for a while. The idea was both terrifying and tempting. Our entire relationship, our careers, were built on this digital world. Could we really walk away? But the more we talked about it, the more right it felt. We decided to announce a month-long hiatus, a digital detox to reconnect with ourselves and each other. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Our followers were supportive, but our sponsors? Not so much. Within days, I had emails from half a dozen brands threatening to pull their contracts if we didn't maintain our online presence. And then there was work. I walked into the office the day after our announcement, only to find Jack waiting for me, his face grim. Diana, he said, his voice uncharacteristically serious. We need to talk. What followed was the most uncomfortable conversation of my professional life. Jack didn't yell or threaten, which almost made it worse. He just calmly explained how my little stunt was affecting the company, how clients were nervous, how my team was struggling without my direct involvement. I'm not asking you to choose between your personal life and your career, he said, though his tone implied otherwise. I'm just asking you to consider the bigger picture. I left his office feeling hollow, torn between my love for Lila and the career I'd worked so hard to build. That night, as Lila and I lay in bed, I voiced the fear that had been gnawing at me. What if we're making a huge mistake? I asked, staring up at the ceiling. What if we step away and everyone forgets about us? Lila propped herself up on one elbow, looking down at me with those piercing blue eyes. Diana, listen to me. If they forget about us because we took a month to focus on our relationship, then they were never really there for us in the first place. She was right, of course, but it didn't make the decision any easier. The next few days were a roller coaster of emotions as we prepared for our digital departure. We filmed one last video explaining our choice, assuring our followers we'd be back, and then, silence. The first week was the hardest. I felt phantom vibrations in my pocket, reaching for a phone that wasn't there. I'd catch myself composing tweets in my head, then remember our pact. But slowly, something shifted. Lila and I rediscovered each other away from the cameras and comment sections. We took long walks on the beach, tried new recipes in the kitchen, stayed up late talking about our dreams and fears. It was like falling in love all over again. But reality has a way of intruding, even on the most idyllic escapes. Halfway through our month-long break, I received a call from Maria. "Di," she said, her voice urgent. "You need to check your email, now." With a sense of dread, I logged in to find my inbox flooded. Sarah Klein, true to her word, had leaked those old DMs, but she hadn't stopped there. She'd woven a narrative of manipulation and deceit, painting me as a serial stalker who had wormed my way into Lila's life. The story was spreading like wildfire, picked up by gossip sites and news outlets alike. Our carefully cultivated image was crumbling, and we weren't even online to defend ourselves. I felt the panic rising again, my breath coming in short gasps. This was it. This was how it all fell apart. I was going to lose everything. My job? My reputation, Lila? But then I felt a warm hand on my shoulder. I looked up to see Lila standing there, her face set with determination. "We're not running from this," she said firmly. "We're going to face it head-on, together." As I looked into her eyes, I felt a calm wash over me. She was right. We'd weathered storms before, and we'd weathered this one too. Whatever came next, we'd face it as a team. Taking a deep breath, I nodded. "Okay," I said, reaching for my phone. "Let's do this." As I powered up the device, bracing myself for the onslaught to come, I couldn't help but feel a glimmer of hope. After all, Lila and I had found each other against all odds. What was one more obstacle in the grand scheme of things? Little did I know, our greatest challenge, and our greatest triumph, was yet to come. But in that moment, with Lila by my side, I felt ready to take on the world. They say that when you hit rock bottom, the only way to go is up. Well, let me tell you, that's a load of bull. When you hit rock bottom, sometimes you find a shovel and keep digging. That's where Lila and I found ourselves in the aftermath of Sarah's little exposé. Our return to social media was like stepping into a war zone. The comments section was a cesspool of hate and judgment, our DMs flooded with everything from death threats to marriage proposals. People are weird, okay? It was overwhelming, to say the least. But Lila, gosh, Lila was a force of nature. She faced the storm head-on, her chin held high and her eyes blazing with determination. We decided to go live, to tell our side of the story without filters or edits, just raw, uncut truth. As we sat in front of the camera, my hands shaking so bad I could barely hold my phone, Lila reached over and laced her fingers through mine. "Ready?" she asked softly. I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. And then we were live, facing thousands of viewers who were alternately calling for our heads and declaring their undying support. "Hi everyone," Lila began, her voice steady. "We've got a lot to talk about." What followed was the most brutally honest hour of my life. We laid it all out there. My initial awkward attempts at connecting with Lila, the anonymous account, the whole messy journey that led us to where we were. I felt naked, exposed, but also liberated. As we talked, something unexpected happened. The tide of public opinion began to shift. Comments poured in from people sharing their own awkward dating stories. Their experiences with online connections turned real. It wasn't all positive, of course. There were still plenty of haters. But for every nasty comment, there seemed to be two supportive ones. By the time we signed off, I felt drained but oddly hopeful. Lila pulled me into a tight hug, whispering, We did it, babe. We faced it together. The next few weeks were a whirlwind. Our follower counts skyrocketed as people tuned in to watch our redemption arc. Brands that had dropped us came crawling back, drawn by our newfound authenticity, their word, not mine. Even Jack called to congratulate us on turning things around. But something felt off. The more our stars rose, the more disconnected I felt from the person I used to be. I'd log off after a live stream and feel hollow, like I'd left a piece of myself behind in the digital world. Lila noticed, because of course she did. One night, as we lay in bed scrolling through our respective feeds, she put her phone down and turned to me. "Diana," she said softly, "are you happy?" The question caught me off guard. Was I happy? I had everything I thought I wanted: fame, success, the girl of my dreams. But the answer that bubbled up from deep inside surprised even me. "No," I whispered, tears pricking at my eyes. "I don't think I am." What followed was the hardest conversation of my life. We talked for hours, crying and laughing and holding each other, and slowly, a crazy idea began to take shape. 2 days later, we went live one last time. Our followers were confused. We hadn't announced this stream, and it was the middle of the workday, but they tuned in by the thousands, eager to see what drama was unfolding now. "Hey everyone," I said, my voice surprisingly steady. "Lila and I have an announcement to make." We shared our decisions simply, without fanfare. We were stepping away, not just for a month this time, but indefinitely. We'd realized that the life we'd built online, as glittering as it was, wasn't making us happy. We wanted to reconnect with the real world, to build something tangible. The response was immediate and intense. Our notifications exploded with messages of support, confusion, and yes, some anger. But as we signed off for the last time, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. The next morning, we packed up my old Jeep and hit the road. No destination in mind, just a vague plan to drive up the coast and see where life took us. As San Diego disappeared in the rearview mirror, Lila reached over and squeezed my hand. "You okay?" she asked, her eyes sparkling with excitement and a hint of nerves. I glanced at her, then back at the open road ahead. For the first time in months, I felt truly, deeply okay. "Yeah," I said, a smile spreading across my face. "I really am." We drove in comfortable silence for a while, the radio playing softly in the background. Then Lila spoke up, a mischievous grin on her face. "You know, we could always start a travel blog." I laughed, shaking my head. "Don't you dare," I warned playfully. "This is a strictly digital-free adventure." As we cruised up the Pacific Coast Highway, the sun setting in a blaze of orange and pink, I couldn't help but feel like we were at the beginning of something amazing. Sure, we'd left behind the fame and fortune of our online lives. But what lay ahead? That was the real adventure. And if, 6 months later, we found ourselves opening a tiny beachside cafe in a sleepy Oregon town, well, that's a story for another time. All I know is, sometimes the best things in life happen when you put down your phone and actually live them. So here's to new beginnings, to taking the road less traveled, and to finding love in the most unexpected places. Because at the end of the day, isn't that what life's all about?